And to me, it's like, I always say like plan the work and work the plan, right?
Yeah.
And for me, you talked about this. One of the biggest fears that I think professionals have and just overall is this fear of failure. And for me, like when I get asked, and I was just on a podcast like a week ago, and somebody asked me, and they were like, "Chris, what is like one of your superpowers that nobody would know?" Right? And I was like, I was thinking through this, and I said, you know what? I wake up every day and I look for failure. And I remember saying this, and he said, like, the interviewer sat back and was like, "Chris, did you mean to say that?" Like, I was like, "Yeah." He was like, we got to dive into that. And I said, the reason why I look for failure is because that's one of the biggest fears anyone has, right? The fear of failure, I would say, in tops of all fears, I also fear, like, what's another? I don't fear spiders or anything. I think spiders are cool. They're great for the environment. There's very little things that I fear, but failure was like one of those biggest ones. And I said, what better way for me to get comfortable around this fear than if I just go chase it? And it's like the most counterintuitive thing. You're like, Chris, what are you talking about? But the moment that I got and faced failure, and I realized two things when I had this attitude that I'm gonna find ways to fail, I realized in my life that there's only really two options that I'm gonna get from that situation. I'm either gonna win or I'm gonna learn. So, like, is the fear of failure actually bad if you win or learn from it? So like the math. Here's me mathing right now, Rob. In my
Right.
head, my math is mathing right now, and I was like, well, if X is failure and failure is not bad, it's not a negative, and I can always win or learn from it, then it's a win. So that fear of me getting over is like, man, I look at failure because I've some of the biggest professional, the biggest personal, the biggest emotional moments and comfort zone expanding moments and experiences that I've had in my life is because I failed,
Yeah.
right? And once you get comfortable to say, hey, I acknowledge I made this mistake. I failed at this, right?
Hmm.
Here's what I learned from it. And this learning I'm going to take that's going to, make me better in the future, but it also can be able to help somebody else to not make that same again. So it's like failure, if you look at it from that perspective, of a completely different, let me be on brand, right? If you look at it from a fresh view, right? Like it is a win. And I think, like, as you talked about even before, like finding those ways and taking those practical steps every day. Like, hey, I want to get over this. Here's the action plan that I have. Here's the dedication that I'm going to commit to doing that every day, right? It kind of boils down to what we work with our clients on. Like, I call it like the vision to execution framework, right? It's vision, strategy, tactics, metrics, milestone, execution. So the same way that funnel drives business outcomes and results, you can take that, your framework that you mentioned of saying, hey, acknowledge it, find the goals that you want to achieve, tackle that goal every day, and monitor and make sure you have somebody like you holding those people accountable to say, hey, I'm going to be in this with you. Accountability and having I call it like a great conflict community, where it's like I've got people in my network, I've got mentors, I got business leaders, I got entrepreneurs, I got partners that I love. I could go to an idea, and they look across from me, Rob, and say, Chris, that's stupid. And I'm like, thank you. Like, help me understand why that's stupid. Like, I have such a amount of trust and respect for these people that we could be very direct and they can hold me accountable. They can say, Chris, you're dumb, or Chris, you made a mistake, or Chris, that was awesome. So make sure you have that community of people, man. And I think like your practical tips to give the people to overcome fear, whatever that fear is, right? That is a great framework and a great foundation that you can go take and build right now.